Now we have a few things going on in this plot, but I really want to talk about the Ultimate No Till and that process that I started about 20 years ago. Call it the Buckwheat No Till, Ultimate No Till. But the whole idea is once you have plots that are in this condition right here, we're getting buckwheat on the ground. We're doing that in early June sometime. And now if you're in a northern state where you need a longer growing season for the buckwheat, I would suggest right around the 1st of June, make sure you're past your last frost date because frost will kill it instantly. And then I'm just getting buckwheat on the ground. You don't need a drill. You don't need an expensive drill or planter to get switchgrass grass on the, or to get buckwheat on the ground, it'll grow. And you can see right here, the way the soil is, I throw buckwheat down in this, we get a little bit of rain, it's going to germinate very fast. Now, if you have open sand, open ground, we're using a cultipacker to smash that in, and we'll do so out here just to ensure good germination. But bottom line is we can throw the buckwheat right on the ground within this mix and we're done. And I'll show you, you come over here for, I said we have a couple things going on. It's not going to be this wide, but about half of this, maybe 5 feet, we're going to have a wall of switchgrass through here. We also have a wall of switchgrass to get in the blind on the other side. So this is something we could do now that we started these food plots last year. Last year we just sprayed 3 times, threw the seed out, and I ended up shooting a couple really nice bucks out of this redneck blind right here during last season. One with the bow, one with the shotgun, both at less than 30 yards. Adding the switchgrass will be a big improvement, and at the same time, now that we've had this rotation where we have rye, we'll have buckwheat during the summertime, we'll be able to get some better seeds in here, some better mixes. We'll actually have a lot more volume on this food plot going into the hunting season. This food plot was used all the way into the winter. We had pictures of bucks actually standing, nibbling off that red cedar right there. They had all kinds of food around here, but it's funny, they're browsers and they'll pick at that sometimes, but that was all the way into January, February sometimes. So they're out here a lot. We're gonna increase the volume. We'll make this an even better hunting spot. We're giving ourselves even better access in and out. Obviously, we're shooting a couple nice bucks from the redneck. It's hidden enough, and the deer are using this during daylight hours. We had just about every big buck on this plot at some time, a lot of times in and around shooting hours, but we're at this point. This is rye from last year, and it's still got a little ways to go. It would probably get in that 5-foot range and almost become problematic. But what's nice is we practiced chemical control last year. You can see various weeds coming in here, but the soil is showing quite a bit right here. And what's important about that is, yes, I'm going to come through here and I'm going to kill this right now. I'm going to plant buckwheat in the next week to 10 days. That'll probably put that planting around June 6th, June 7th, June 8th, somewhere around there. But I'm going to spread that buckwheat right on the ground. After this is dead, it'll be dying at that point. The seed will get on the soil. There's a lot of exposed soil in here because we practiced good chemical control and weed control last year. So we'll get that buckwheat on the ground. This will be dying. I'll run it all over with a Packer Max, pulled behind the Kubota here. And the whole reason for that buckwheat is we want that buckwheat to come up. It's the only type of crop that you can smash down with simply cultipacker. We use Packer Max. You can just roll it over. You can roll it over with these wheels, with a lawn roller. I like the Packer Max because it ensures increased seed to soil contact. It's quality Packer Max or a quality cultipacker. But bottom line is we're getting that buckwheat. That buckwheat should get about chest high, waist high this year. We're spreading our seeds into the standing buckwheat. This is critical, into the standing buckwheat. That means you can't pull a spreader behind it because seed will lay on top of the buckwheat and then it's not going to germinate. You need to spread the seed into it first, then smash down the buckwheat. We're using the cultipacker, Packer Max. And what I did last year with the ATV is I actually sprayed with the 40-inch boom right on top of the Packer Max as I was smashing it down every other row. And what that did is it sprays a couple feet into the row beside it, and so every other row I'm turning the sprayer on, so I'm getting a kill and I'm smashing at the same time. That dying and decaying buckwheat lays over the top of the seed, aids in germination, holds moisture against that seed, almost like throwing straw on your lawn. Buckwheat is the only crop that'll bend over, that you can plant, that'll grow like that. It's a smother crop for weeds. We've tried sun hemp, tillage radish, other varieties of different types of plants, turnips that we could actually put in there, but the problem is either the deer eat them, they don't have enough smothering crop abilities to shade out weeds. All these broadleafs in here, we're gonna get a kill anyways, but they'll all be shaded out by that buckwheat by the end of June, early July. So becomes a smother crop, aids in weeds and eliminating weeds and controlling weeds. And that's how we start this process. Last year, this was the easy no-till plot. This is not a food plot. It's cleared out, but it's full of trees, brush, and weeds. We ran it all over. We sprayed it. We used brassica in here along with rye, oats, peas, kind of a garden mix. And that was that first year. And what I'm usually doing, just like the blade plot back there, I'm putting brassica on one side, and then I'm putting tillage radish or peas, oats. I'm putting that on one side. Light oats. You have to be very careful about what competes with what. And I've seen people say that putting these big kitchen sink blends in together is just diversity. And that if you have quality soil even, that they don't compete against each other, then it's even worse. You can't plant rye, wheat, oats with brassicas. Brassicas meaning radish, turnips, rape. When you see mixes like that together, it's going to hurt you. Don't buy it. It shows that the people putting them together shouldn't probably even be selling seed. Those two need to be separated. They're planted about 5 weeks apart. Another telltale sign that probably someone shouldn't be selling seed is if they have sugar beets in with brassica. Sugar beets should be planted 6, 7, 8 weeks before brassica. They're not going to be appreciable, but guess what? They got you to buy it because it said sugar beets on the bag. Something else that shouldn't be planted together. There won't be appreciable volume. The whole purpose of adding different varieties and forages together in one blend is to try to increase the volume, diversity, and attractiveness of the plot. But if your plants are fighting each other, or there are plants in there that won't actually come even close to offering any volume because they're either too spaced out in the plot or they're too immature, because in the case of sugar beets, for example, they were planted at a time where it didn't allow them to actually grow and actually produce something appreciable for deer, then you're doing a disservice not only to the deer because you're not offering as much food as you can for them, but to your plotting activities, yourself as a hunter, as a land manager. So certain things need to be planted apart. That's the easy no-till last year. Brassica grows really well just thrown on the soil. Peas do okay with a lot of rain, but especially oats. And then we top dress that with rye, and that's what we're left with here. So whether it was an old brassica field we're going to spread seed into this year, or in buckwheat, or it's into this rye, you can get that buckwheat to grow really well, very easily. And then this buckwheat will take over this plot. It's shading out the ground. Again, it's offering it's almost like with that buckwheat, you're adding a 1/4 inch of soil over your seeds. Now we're gonna do something different a little bit this year. Depending on where you're at, if your buckwheat's only waist high, pretty easy to spread brassica into that, you get a good coverage. But when that buckwheat is chest high, like last year, we had good soils here, you're lifting that spreader up. The brassica isn't really actually spreading out that far as you think. So you're getting more strips of brassica. You're not getting great coverage. What I'm gonna try to do this year is I'm gonna spread the big seeds. I'm gonna put 100 pounds of peas, 50 pounds of beans, 30, 40 pounds of oats. That's the mix, the WHS blend that John Comp sells from Northwoods. You can just buy it from him. It's a lot easier than mixing it yourself. But I'm putting that blend in on half the plot, and then I'm putting brassica on the other half. I think what I'll do is I'll put the big seeds in there because they need to be covered up. You're not going to get beans to grow without putting that buckwheat layer over the top unless you get it down in the soil, and you don't need to do that. That's the whole purpose of providing the buckwheat. I was just at a Rudy's Feed and Seed picking up some buckwheat over in Holman, Wisconsin this morning, and he was talking about people putting buckwheat into rye, and their expensive planter they have is not coming. He's not sure what to do. Well, the whole idea, and luckily Rudy told him that, you just throw the buckwheat on the ground. You can roll over the rye, call to pack the rye, but bottom line is you're gonna get good germination. And I always follow up 2 quarts per acre glyphosate when I put that buckwheat down, so that, or a little bit ahead of time like we're doing right now, just so that I can get some additional weed control on here. But again, I'm putting the buckwheat down. I'm going to put the big seeds in the buckwheat, smash it down like traditional. I'm gonna smash the other half down. After that breaks down for just a few days, it breaks down very fast because you're killing it with the glyphosate, 2 quarts per acre after you smash it down. Then I'm going to spread my brassica down in, because it ends up being stalks. You can get that seed right down in the soil. That buckwheat will still aid in germination, but it'll allow me to get a very even coverage as opposed to trying to fight with the buckwheat. And hey, if you don't have to seed through half your buckwheat field when it's 5 feet tall, you just put the big seeds in, then that's not such a bad thing either. So we're going to add that step this year, and I think that'll help us get that better coverage. The bottom line is, we're gonna have switchgrass along this outside. We're gonna strip this out with brassica and then our cereal grain blend. That way we get the best of both worlds, growing the most volume on each half. Don't mix those all together. You're gonna get lower volume in the field. Lower volume means lower attraction, and it doesn't equal as long of attraction. If you're not getting as much volume, the deer are eating it out by November, then you don't have that attraction for the remainder of the season. I want these plots working for us the entire year. That's why I separate out certain plants. You don't want to plant two in the same spot, and it works out really well, and it becomes that next great step that we can use to get those late planted beans, peas, oats in. Top dress that with rye 5 weeks later. Check out my 2020 best food plot mix. Also 2021 will be out before August. You can go back, you can see kind of these things we've been doing. Check out Ultimate No Till planting, Ultimate No Till buckwheat planting. All these different titles come up. They're under my food plot playlist on my YouTube channel. There's a lot of information out there. I've been putting these videos out for a few years about that process, something that, you know, again, originated a long time ago, but it's used to help hold soil moisture, keep from eroding your land because you're not disking and tilling. You're not destroying that top layer of soil and continually mixing it with poor soil down beneath. Just work on that top layer. We're doing everything no-till. We're not plowing, disking, tilling anything out here. And buckwheat is a huge part of that, and we'll be able to step up the life of this plot this year. It was already really good last year, but with screening of switchgrass, even if it only gets 4 feet high this year on the inside and out, and by offering higher volume blends within the Buckwheat No-Till, Ultimate No-Till, then we're gonna have a great food plot in this location this year, and we're gonna spray it. We'll follow up in about a week by spreading that buckwheat on the ground, just how it lines up with the chores that I can do right now, and follow along. This will be a great plot this year. Can't wait to show it to you. Hey guys, I really appreciate you watching today's video. We're out here having some fun today. We're planting some switchgrass, cutting some timber, making some bedding areas, but most importantly, we're putting it all together, and that's critical. Any habitat improvements that you're making, you can't just make improvements because it's a good spot. You have to link those together so that helps your hunt this fall. Really, I encourage you to check out my web classes. The link is in the description. It's helped a lot of folks design their properties and do what we're out here having fun doing right now.